Well, hey, Life Group leaders. My name is Andrew Feil, FIG Spiritual Formation Director, and just here to give you a snapshot of where the primer is going to be going in the next couple weeks, kind of in part 2 of the primer. And so we're making a different shift for you guys, so hopefully the first part was really informative for you. Hopefully you had really good discussion, and enriching discussion. And so as you've learned about what it means to be a disciple, and then also what we're hoping for Life Group. So when we talk about connect to God, connect to each other, being in every neighborhood, what does that mean? What does that look like? And so as you've studied the Bible, as you've heard from some of these other guys on staff, that you've really been informed and just had some great discussion on it. So hopefully that's been enriching for you. Part 2 of the primer is a different shift. So the idea with it is really to understand what James is talking about in chapter 1, verse 22 through 25. He says, but be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. And those that do will be blessed in their doing. And so for us, we want to give you these concepts. You've heard about them. And now we want you to live them. So we want you to live this out. We want you to be those that put this word into practice. So as we talk about Connect to God, we want you to do it. We want you to get a feel for what it looks like as a life group to do this week in and week out. As we talk about Connect to God, we want you to live this out. We want you to connect to each other. And so you've done that in various ways, but we want you to do it in some new ways. And as we talk about being in every neighborhood, that's the same idea. We want you to live in every neighborhood and get a taste for what that can look like. And so that's going to be a little bit of a shift. So let me walk through week 8 through 12. Is really going to be a sense of playing this out. So what we're going to do is we're going to have you guys go through the Life Group Guide. The Life Group Guide is something that follows along with a sermon text. So let's say the sermon is 1 Corinthians 12, 1 through 10. You'll go through that text as a life group, and you will discuss what the text says. And you can, if you were there on Sunday, and you can fill in, and you already heard from one of the teaching pastors, great, you have something. But if you weren't there, great, you can still dive into the text and discuss this as a life group and discuss the implications for your community. And so we want you to go through that. We're going to give you 3 weeks of going through the Life Group Guide where you spend time going through the text. You're actually going to go through 1 Corinthians 12 because we just thought that would be a great series of passages on the body, on unity, on our gifts, on our spiritual gifts, how we're wired, how God has created us, and the different parts we play in the body. So hopefully those will be some really rich Bible studies that you're connecting to God, that you're prayerful as a life group, and you're just taking time to dive into scriptures, but more important, you're there to apply it. So how do we apply these texts? How do we do life? How do we sharpen one another as the scriptures say? So you'll have a couple weeks of connecting to God very intentionally through the life group guides. We want you to take a week as a life group to live out connecting to each other. So you are actually going to figure out what you want to do as a life group. So something that is seriously just fun and just relational. So have a good time with it. Don't go to a movie because, often going to a movie, you're just sitting next to somebody, not having a discussion. But go to a baseball game, or if you hate sports, have a game night, or just have a dog party. Do something that's fun that your life group would enjoy together. Have fun, go to a cultural event in your neighborhood or city. So dream out what it could be. Your group will decide that. But seriously, connect to each other, just have fun. So that'll be one of your weeks in the next coming part 2 of the life group. And then finally, we want you to live out every neighborhood. And so we're going to challenge you as individual members of your life group to live intentionally and to serve in an intentional way during 1 week of the primer. And so you as a life group member will go out and figure out how you can be a blessing where you live, or where you work, or where you play, or all of those. And you'll take a week to do that as a life group. Be very intentional. Take a courageous step. Be bold and love and serve those around you in word and, more importantly, in deed. Let them see the love of Christ come through your actions. And then you'll take the next time, you'll gather back together as a life group and talk about it. How did it go? How did that feel? Was it scary? How do you feel after it? So as a life group, you'll live out being in every neighborhood together. You'll take steps as a life group to challenge each other to be bold and love and be salt and light to those in your neighborhood. So that'll be in the primer. I think as a whole, you'll move in, so it's this idea really of living and learning, that you're taking concepts, things you know, things you've thought about, things you've wrestled with, connect to God, connect to each other, every neighborhood, and now you're living it out. So you're putting it into practice, and you're experiencing what a monthly kind of rhythm as a life group would be like. If we had to give you a sample schedule as a life group, or our hope for you as a life group, if you had 4 weeks in a month, we would love to see you intentionally take 2 of those 4 weeks to in some way connect to God. So go through scriptures together, pray together, worship together, baptize, do baptisms together. Figure out what that would be to how you can connect to God together. Hear your stories of what God's been doing in your life, God sightings or whatever you call it. Take 2 weeks to connect to God in a month. Then we'd hope you take 1 week to just enjoy the presence of your community, enjoy each other, have fun together, and just relationally connect, do life together with no agenda other than to get to know each other more. So we'd hope you do that once out of the 4 weeks. And then finally, we hope you'd be intentional to be serving and to really be in every neighborhood together. So we'd hope that'd be a monthly thing for you, not something you do once a year or once a quarter, something you do monthly, that it's a priority that as disciples and as Christians, we live intentionally in our neighborhoods. We live intentionally where we live and where we work and where we play. And that as a life group, you can do that together. And that can be fun and exciting to figure out ways you can serve based on the gifts you have in your life group or the connections or networks you have in your community. And so we'd hope that out of a monthly calendar that you'd 2 times to connect to God, 1 of connect to each other, and 1 of every neighborhood. So we're going to help you live that out. We're going to help you get an experience for what that's like. And then finally, in week 13, you'll gather as a life group to just celebrate, to reflect, and to ponder what God has done with your group, and to think about what you're going to do going forward. So share stories, share how God's challenged you, how He's pushed you, how He's encouraged you, and just reflect on what's God's done. We know, honestly, that not every group will continue on. Our hope is that every group does. We hope that this experience was so enriching that you're going to figure out who will be the leader, figure out how you're going to share leadership. But not every group will. So if you're not, you'll be done at week 13. But as I said, I hope every group does. And so week 14 is a time for your life group to figure out how are you going to live life as a life group going forward. What is your monthly schedule going to be? Where are you going to meet? Who's going to be the leader? How are you going to share meals? All these kind of things that are just logistical and even just philosophical things for a life group. So we want you to think about that. We want you to talk about that. We want you to schedule that. You're going to schedule the next 3 months of your life group. And so hopefully this is really something for you as a life group that is a great planning session, great vision session, and just pray through it and allow God to guide and to lead week 14 as you just make plans for the future. And so that's the next chunk of the primer. That's week 8 through 14. We hope that is really something that will just be a breath of fresh air. It'll be something new that we have to put Scripture into play and live it week in and week out. And so hopefully this is a fun experiment and give you a really taste of what we're hoping biblical community can be like. So if you have any questions, talk to your campus spiritual formation director and lean into your life group leader and help them out in this process. This is now something that's a team effort. So lend a hand, assist them in any way you can, because life group is really not about them. It's about you guys as a community. And so we're excited for this next journey with you. The next video you'll have will be in week 13. As a wrap up and kind of a celebration. And then until then, just check out the life group guides, the primer life group guides. That'll really get you going. So excited for you guys and good luck on your journey.